So I did two things. One is I joined some social impact investment, women-run, women-founded companies. So that was why I became an investor, because I think only 2% of venture funding goes to women, and that has to change. See, I think nowadays like AI has become like a word that gets like put on every single pitch deck.
Right.
And so and it used to be cloud, right?
Yes.
At one point. And I have made my share of mistakes. For different people, depending on their income level, the 529 becomes an interesting option for them. You need to think of traction as the first thing. Can you get enough customers to actually try what you built and actually say good things about it? So as an investor, I look for that. So traction is the first. I talk about like 5 T's. So first is traction.
When you look at her, at your younger self, what do you feel? And what would you be grateful for her? Hi, my name is Aytekin. I am welcoming you from Verso Talk with Aytekin, a talk show that aims to feature femigrant investors and founders raising millions of dollars. The aim of this show is to educate immigrant women on investment, fundraising, growing startups, and helping them become successful entrepreneurs. Femigrant stands for female immigrant. It's a global community of female immigrants. Today, our guest is Preethy. She is a femigrant from India. She is LP at How Women Invest, and also she's an angel investor since 2018. Preethy, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the Verso Talk Show. We are very happy and excited to have you at our podcast.
Thank you, Aytekin. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So, Preethy, please introduce yourself.
So, Aytekin, my name is Preethy Padmanabhan. I've been in San Francisco for over 20 years in technology. I run marketing for a climate tech company now, but I've been in a couple of unicorn startups in marketing leadership roles. And I also became an angel investor about 6 years ago, and also started investing directly in companies and in funds like How Women Invest and Portfolia.
So before we go to investment world, I would love to hear about your personal journey. And when did you move? How did you move? What motivated you to stay in Silicon Valley?
I moved from India to the US end of 2000. And I actually was working for Cisco at that time in Bangalore. And I actually got married to my boyfriend at that time who was living here. So we decided to live in the Bay Area. And so I moved also. And I continued working at Cisco. And that's how I moved here. But I love the Bay Area. There's so much of entrepreneurship, so much energy, and the people want to help each other. So that's what has kept me in the Bay Area. Plus the good weather.
Yeah. Was your role involved in marketing at Cisco?
I started out as an engineer.
Oh.
And I was an software engineer, and I was doing program management also for the first 10 years of my career. And then I decided to move to product management and eventually product marketing. And now I run all of marketing.
That's interesting. That's interesting transition. So what inspired you to transition from engineering to marketing? Was it just organically happened, or you did it intentionally?
Every move in my career has been very intentional. And I really am a person that loves to meet customers. I love to talk to people. And I used to think like I'm building all these products and throwing them out on the other side of the wall, and I don't know what's happening with the products. So for me, it was very important for me to know the customer voice. That's what motivated me to make a move to product management side. And then once I got in front of customers and I went to all these trade shows or stood in front of them doing presentation, that was it, right? That's what I loved and I wanted to do all the time.
That's very interesting. And how did you transition to investment world?
So when I had actually exited out of the first startup that went pre to post IPO, like after Cisco, I'd moved to Dell, and after Dell, I went to a company called Nutanix. It's actually one of the huge cloud companies that became like a $1 billion unicorn very quickly, and IPO'd in 2016. So when I left in 2018, I said, I also need to actually think about how do I actually make an impact and make a difference to the community. So I did two things. One is I joined some social impact investment. One of the organizations I was part of called Silicon Valley Social Venture Fund, SV2, that invests in impact entrepreneurs. And I also invested in women-run, women-founded companies. So that was why I became an investor, because I think only 2% of venture funding goes to women, and that has to change. And that's a huge push behind how women invest also as an investment company that was started, and we are all behind it.
What do we need to do as a union, as a community, to increase that percentage from 2 to maybe, I will be too optimistic if I say 50?
50, maybe, like, we always work towards it. There's a crawl, walk, run. I always say that to my team. I think what we did about 2 years ago, we launched this campaign through How Women Lead. I'm on the board of How Women Lead. How Women Lead and How Women Invest and How Women Give are three sister organizations. I'm on the board of How Women Lead. The organizations were started by Julie Castro Abrams.
Yeah, I am very familiar with it.
And so with her, the New Table campaign that was launched in 2023, actually 2 years ago, in the NASDAQ. I was also there with 75 other women. It was a fantastic experience.
I've watched it.
And so we are trying to get 10,000 women to invest in venture funds. Because I think women have to realize that their power, that they have the money and they have the financial acumen, and they can change how women and entrepreneurs get funded. So that's how I started, being part of that New Table. And that's one way we are looking to make a change immediately.
How was your personal journey as a woman immigrant investor to be in the male-dominated world?
I think I had to go find my tribe. I think for anybody who is looking to become an investor, two things. One is you have to go form the team of people around you who would support you and educate you in the community. And I think the good news is the Bay Area is so cosmopolitan. There's more immigrants in the Bay Area. So that is why I didn't feel like an outsider. Maybe if I had been in a different part of the country where there are not many people who look like me or talk like me, it would have been different. So for me, I just surrounded myself with others, and it didn't matter what ethnicity or what even gender, right? I had both men and women advise me on my investor journey. And I got the best advice possible. So that's why, for me, my financial journey, and I can talk more about it, how I got started in the whole, before I became an investor. Do you want me to?
Yeah, please tell.
So about maybe 10, 12 years ago, I actually realized, this was when I was doing my MBA. I started thinking about, one of my economics professor had talked about how if people go about earning throughout their whole life. They work for like maybe 30, 40 years and they earn money, But if they don't plan it correctly, they'll run out of money in retirement. And that's the truth, right? Because unless you actually make the money work for you, you might run out of money. And that's very unfortunate. People can make like really Bay Area salaries and still run out of money.
Yeah.
And that's not, and I even recently heard that even people who are making millions of dollars, like sports people and movie stars, can also actually run out of money if they do not take proper care of how they are spending or how they are making sure the money grows.
Yeah.
So 12 years ago, I then started consulting with some financial advisors. And as a result of that, what I call as the nest egg, right? Like, the money that is I've set aside for investing through my 401k and outside has like tripled since the time. And that's because I have sought the help of the right team members.
Yeah.
And that was what made me more confident to expand. And diversification has been a core value that I care about in financial investing. That's the second biggest thing. One is, the first thing is to make sure you understand that your money has to work for you.
Yeah.
And then second is to understand that you have to diversify.
Yeah.
So I have diversified like through the stocks, bonds, as well as real estate. And even in real estate, diversified, like, basically some regular residential or farm, commercial real estate, different real estate, and then also venture, right?
Yeah.
Venture is also capable of delivering good returns, right? So that is my strategy.
Coming from developing countries, we are not very familiar about investment, this different type of investment. So personally, I learned lots of things about investment here in Silicon Valley.
Yes.
When I was child or at a younger age back in my country, I have never heard about these phrases. What do immigrant women, especially somebody who just moved to America, any immigrant, what knowledge, what do they need to know the differences and importance between them?
So, a few things. Number one, you always need to have at least 6 months of runway of cash in your savings account. Because first, actually, even before that, just one step forward. The first thing I did is to create an income and expenses spreadsheet. Actually, believe it or not, I still love spreadsheets. And so I still like plain old spreadsheets. Besides using all the apps that we have for money management, I have to go and see my columns of expenses and income. So I like to do that. I want to really see every few years. I go and revisit it to see how my spending habits are and how my income is able to exceed. And you have to always have the amount of expenses. This is like for a rainy day, right? Suppose something bad happens, and if you need the cash, and one of maybe in the family one person loses a job or you lose the job, you need to have that, right? So that is the first rule I follow, like at least 6 months of buffer, and more. That is enough. That's more than enough. Once you have that much buffer in the savings account, it's better to take the rest of the money and invest it, because you earn so less than 5% on good times, and sometimes it might be even 2 to 3% of interest in the savings account. So it's better to just keep the bare minimum necessary for the rainy day, and then rest of it goes into different forms of investment that I mentioned earlier.
For immigrants who just started to invest, what are the less riskier options for them to start investing?
So to start with, it's good to understand the simple indexes in the market, like S&P 500. Last 2 years, it has grown by 20%. Typically, it at least goes by 5% every year, and 10% it'll be a good rate of return for anybody, right? 10% to 12% on average. If you have a return, there is a rule called rule of 72. So if you divide 72 divided by the interest rate you get, it tells you the number of years it will take to double your money. So 72 divided by, if you get 10% interest, in 7 years you will double your money.
Oh, wow.
Right? So that's a wonderful way of measuring how much you should be investing and in which types of investment. So if you think about beginner investment, you could just simply just invest in S&P 500 and just that a certain amount. My son is just starting his first job, paid job, and we were just talking about it yesterday, where he was asking me, like, how do I think about it? And like I said, think about, like, maybe you can just start with S&P 500 investment, and that will help him in like 5-6 years from now. If it keeps generating the 10%, 12% interest on average, the money would have doubled, right? So that's as simple as that.
So your son just started to learn about investment, and you gave him advice about S&P 500. What other advice, 2 more, maybe top 3 advices you would give anyone in a similar situation with your son, got a job, have money, and wants to invest?
Yeah. So the second advice I would give is to create like a pie of what do they want to do with their money. Like it's like what I was talking about, like make your money work for you. It's part of that. Like, say if you wanted to spend, like, say 10% of your income in travel, you put that aside. Like you write down what you want to do with the money. I put aside every month $1,000. So I have $10,000 every year set aside for my travel, and I go on a wonderful cruise or like a vacation to Bali that we did. So I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
So you have to make a pie chart and decide, like, how do you want to divide the money into different buckets, and make sure the pie on investment and savings is at least 50%.
So if you divide this pie to make this woman succeeding, be financially free, how should she divide that pie?
It depends on by what age.
Okay.
If you want to be financially free by like 65, which is the retirement age, then you have a little more flexibility.
Okay.
But if that person wants to retire at 35, then that's a little different story.
I see.
Might be more difficult.
For the woman my age is 45, what would you advise?
So, in the next 20 years, you can easily, if you end up diversifying between like the stocks, bonds, real estate, and also venture, and this is what I'm doing, the next 20 years, I can comfortably retire at age 60 or 60 to 65 and not worry about, like, running out of money.
Yeah. How do you divide your pie if it's not personal information? Just as an example, what should be the percentage?
So when I first started working, I had chosen to at least save about 40% of our income, right? This is post-tax income. You have to always, you always have to pay money to
especially in Silicon Valley.
Yes. So post-tax, if I can save 40%, then that is my one part of the pie. I also want to give back, right? So I at least, ideally, I would like to give back like 5%, at least, like, if possible, and then at least 3%.
Is it like a donation?
Donation.
Okay.
So charity, that is part of my pie. And then, of course, you have like your regular like expenses, which is like your home, your food, and other things, your purchases. So you always have that expense also. So to be able to put that aside. So I would think maybe if you have like 40% allocated for your expenses and other things, and if you can actually save, like, to keep aside 40%, and then the remaining 20% if you need to divide between charity and your travel and other fun things that you want to do. Meditation. I set aside money for my retreats too.
Nice. How about kids' college? Is it included in this pie?
So I think sometimes, yes, maybe at those times you might have to stretch. Like maybe at those times when you have your kids' college education, you might have to, like, make that as part of your savings. There are several ways by which, right, this 529, wherein it becomes like a saving initially, and it can be used for spending. Because like if suppose you put money in a college fund and the amount it would grow, the growth itself will fund for the college, and the original principal can still be retained, right? So that's the beauty.
So
of
please talk
investing.
more about 529.
So 529 actually best. I'm not a financial advisor, so I would suggest talk to the financial advisor on if that is the best program for you. For different people, depending on their income level, the 529 becomes an interesting option for them. Only thing is the restriction is that can only be invested in educational areas. So for those who are putting money in 529, they have to be absolutely sure that that money will be necessary to be spent in that. And also the flip side, the other thing, because we live in California, sometimes some of us earn that high that even after putting in some of these other 529, it might actually not give us the tax savings we are expecting. That's why I'm saying I'm not the best person to, like everybody has to consult a financial advisor.
So everybody, to all immigrants who are interested in 529, so we are recommended by our amazing speaker, Preethy, to get advice from financial advisor. As an immigrant woman, your experience, have you faced any challenges, any obstacles? What were they? How did you overcome them?
So I was raised by a single mom in India in the 70s and 80s, right? And she is so, she's an amazing woman. And she lives in India. I go visit her at least once or twice a year. And she's also been with me in the US for several years. But over there, that was a big challenge. It actually taught me on how I need to be very mindful of both personal commitments that are there in life, and also make sure that I am aware of all the money challenges one goes through, because my mother did have to make sure that I had the right money for educating me, because we did come all the way from like a poor, no, I wouldn't say poor, but rather we weren't exactly the same level of income as where we are now.
Are you the only kid?
I'm the only child.
Okay.
Yes. And so she did make sure that I got the best education. And after that, I had moved to the US and also taken financially, I had taken some educational, trainings through my MBA in finance, but they are all available even for other women, right? You don't need to do an MBA. So those are some challenges I faced as a child, and how we always made sure that as a family, we saved enough money and we focused on what was important.
I see.
And after coming here, I think, I feel very fortunate, right? I think the Bay Area is a great place and I had really good role models and mentors, and I had great opportunities in my career to keep growing my income. So I haven't had to have any other financial difficulties.
How do you think your personal experience shaped who you are today?
My mother taught me to face any challenges with strength and courage. So right from childhood, even when we had all these challenges, both from the support network, that not having a father, but at the same time surrounding myself with the right people. So that was a huge lesson. I talked about it even from a financial angle, that I constantly surround myself with people who would support me, who would cheer me, who would actually feel happy to see me succeed. And that's so important, because that positive energy is important. Otherwise, our minds can get stuck in the negative. Right. And I personally picked up meditation. My mother introduced me to meditation in my teenage years. And I've been a meditator since 19 years old. And so that has been a huge lesson for me. I recommend everybody. And I teach meditation now.
I wanted to invite you all to Femigrant Foundation's annual forum that is hosted by Microsoft. The forum will be on February 28th from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. And we have incredible line of speakers who are startup founders raising billions of dollars, executive level immigrant speakers joining from Fortune 500 companies. At this event, we offer elegantly designed Italian food. There will be different stages for taking red carpet photo session, and it's an amazing opportunity to meet with successful immigrant leaders all in one place. So we are targeting to bring 300 immigrants in one room with Femigrants annual forum called Immigrant Visionaries in Tech, AI, and Startups. I would highly recommend sign up now because ticket sells fast, so don't miss your opportunity to connect with immigrant leaders. At the seed level, so what do they need to know and how they need to present to increase their chances to be invested?
Yes. So at seed level, you typically have probably an MVP, like a minimum viable product that you have built, whatever it might be, right? It could be a technology product, or it could be a different non-technical what you're building. You need to think of traction as the first thing. Can you get enough customers to actually try what you built and actually say good things about it? So as an investor, I look for that. So traction is then first. I talk about like 5 T's. So first is traction.
Okay.
And the second is the market, right? They're going after the TAM, right? Total available market. So to have a big enough market, say if you're building something that is only for like maybe 100 people that would be interested in it, then you don't have a business, right? You need to have tens of thousands or millions of people who might be willing to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So that is the second, right? So traction, having customers, TAM is big enough. And then of course, team. Having the right team members who are capable and have the background to go and execute on that. That is very important. And then the fourth thing, this I've heard from other investors also, is if you can actually come through a trusted contact, like if someone refers you who is someone that I trust or the other investor trusts, that gives a little more leg up for you, right? And so that's one more. And then fifth one is, are you solving a problem that's a pain? So is it a painkiller like Tylenol or is it a vitamin, right?
I see.
So is it a Tylenol is the fifth thing, right?
Yeah.
So those are like my 5 things. Of course, you have to eventually at the next stage, probably once you're out of seed stage, when you get to more later stage, even you have to think of revenue, building up like how much money you have made. And some cases when I was doing due diligence for some of the funds I was part of, we used to even ask for revenue at seed stage investing too. So that made a huge difference because in one of the fund that I'm part of, where we used to say the entrepreneurs should come in with 250,000 or 500,000 income at least. And that fund has already started returning money for like 30% of the companies invested in have started returning money or had some good exit outcome. So that's also important, right? So that the revenue flow is also a good indicator of success.
So you also invest in AI.
I do.
Let's talk about AI. So AI is now booming and so many people trying to come up with ideas like solving issues with AI. What do you mainly focus when you get pitches by startup founders who are trying to solve issues, either vitamin or painkiller, using AI?
Certainly, vitamin would be tough to invest. Right? So, see, I think nowadays, like AI has become like a word that gets like put on every single pitch deck.
Right.
And so, and it used to be cloud, right?
Yes.
At one point, yeah.
What details do you pay attention? You see that this is a green light, I can invest, I can risk, or this is red light.
So, see, I think initially when I was investing in companies, early on, I was looking at more just in terms of the founder mindset. Are they like the drivers? Are they people who can actually be go-getters? Are they passionate about what they do? That is all important, right? And then now I've also learned that if I want to be successful as an investor, I have to also understand how much have their current customers shared about the product, right? And that's the whole traction piece. It still comes back to that, even with an AI product. Like, for example, if somebody is building like an AI SDR, which seems to be like a big thing now, right? Like automating sales, automating some customer support and all that stuff. If it's just another replica of every other AI SDR in town, then there's no differentiation. So I look for both a differentiated angle if they're doing an AI product. What is differentiating them that customers want to come and buy the product, right? So that's another big piece, how I look at AI solutions. Nothing different from even other products, but in AI it becomes even more important because now there's thousands of AI companies.
Does it make your decision too hard when there are too many companies trying to solve similar issues?
So I have now made it the way I'm investing, especially I've moved from investing only in direct companies. In fact, I've reduced that. And now I'm working through funds or through SPVs, in which case I invest as a group. So then there is a little more confidence, because if 100 of us are investing, then there is more opportunity for all of us to put our collective minds to know what are the right investments to make. So that's how I have pivoted my investment strategy.
I see. How does that process work? So, for example, if you get introduced by someone saying that, hey, I know this founder, amazing idea, wants to pitch to you. So you listen individually or you involve group at that stage?
It depends.
Okay.
If the founder is persistent and they actually are making a case which is interesting, then I actually take a one-on-one meeting with them, like coffee meetings. And one important thing that I really look for in founders is coachability. I give time to founders, and the ones that come back to me and actually share how they have actually updated or changed and how it has helped them. Because founders come and ask me all the time. I'm in marketing, so they come and ask me not just for money, but they ask me for advice on how they should talk about the product. And I have advised 30 plus companies, startups in the last 2-3 years. And when they come back and they talk about how it's helping them, then I know they're coachable. But when I'm first offering the advice and they're immediately trying to find reasons why that won't work, then I'm like, why are you coming to me in the first place? If you know what you want to do, then great, more power to you. So coachability is a big thing that I see. And that doesn't mean they should agree with everything I say, but at least to be open, right? Open-minded, right?
Don't try to protect the original idea, right? Have you ever made wrong decisions or mistakes? Or it's hard to talk about mistakes, but this podcast motto is authentic talk and inspire lives. I am sure that we all make mistakes. We are humans. Is there any mistake you feel comfortable to talk about? That was a good lesson for you to learn something.
Certainly. I mean, are you thinking of a mistake from an investor perspective?
Anything you feel comfortable that, for example, immigrants, when they listen, they feel related and they would be like, oh, I made this mistake too. It's okay to make it. I shouldn't judge myself too much.
Yes. So I can certainly share one of the hardest things that I know as a leader that I faced is to hire the right people in my team. And I have made my share of mistakes in hiring the wrong people. Actually, one book that I'm reading right now is the book called Who. And that is something that I'm starting to really like. And there are more books. But the mistake I made, coming back to that, is I hired somebody who was very strong and who had a lot of, even that they came recommended by somebody I know. But I did not actually clearly, because it was coming from somebody who recommended, I actually quickly fast-tracked the interview process.
I see.
And as a result, I hadn't checked if that person was the right fit for the company
Culture.
or the team.
Yeah.
And that was such a bad culture issue that came, that the entire team became so dysfunctional. So that's a big learning I had. So as a result, after that, I take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And even, in my team, my reports, I tell them, look, hiring is hard. So managers should be careful when they hire every single team member, do the right due diligence. Do you have even background reference checks and blind reference checks too. So,
I see. I remember Mark Cuban, he also gave an interview about that. He said that I hired 2 or 3 people and they were all wrong decisions I made in my career because I didn't do due diligence. I relied right away. I hired them. But later from that experience, I learned that I can run lots of money, but I am not the right person to make decision to hire someone. Maybe we can call it lesson, not a mistake.
Yes, exactly.
What advice did you get that changed the trajectory of your life? Very important advice earlier in your career from any mentors or coaches.
Yeah. One advice I always think of is my past does not define my future. So if I had some challenges in the past, or if I had a particular experience in the past and I was seeking something new, doesn't mean that because in the past I haven't done something, I cannot do it in the future. For example, that was the exact framework that helped me move from engineer to product manager to marketing leader now. Yeah. Because I can keep dismissing myself, saying, oh, I don't have the education or the experience to go become a marketing VP. But I didn't stop myself from that. So that is a very important advice. Actually, I got it from Tony Robbins had shared a version of that and talk about past doesn't define your future.
Yeah. So since you talked about career transition, what would you recommend to immigrant women? Especially, we know in America, doctors, lawyers, they come from amazing background back in their country, but they cannot work here. It's a different story, but what would you recommend them to help them to transition successfully into role that they would be able to grow their career here in a different field?
So that's an interesting question. While I would not be the right person to answer about whether they can pursue a doctor or lawyer role, one idea I could give is they could maybe join a company that is building software that would help doctors or lawyers. There are so many companies working on software that helps these industries. There's so many health tech companies, right? So many legal tech companies. That could be a way they could actually pivot and become part of these companies and make a difference.
How about general making transition? What they need to do to make a smooth transition to a different field. Number one, educate ourselves to learn, at least to get the moderate level knowledge what we are expected to do, right? What else they need to do to successfully transition to a different
surround themselves with the people who've done that before. I'll come back to that again and again. We surround ourselves with the role models, with the next level people that we want to be part of. Yeah.
Do you have any advice to immigrant women watching us, especially newcomers?
First of all, believe in yourself. Know that you have a unique value that you can deliver to people in, as part of the US. So that is one big piece of advice. And make sure that you're very thoughtful, and I have this advice called 3S advice, right? Self-care, self-awareness, seek out mentors and sponsors. So the self-care comes to the whole meditation and doing all exercise, everything. Self-awareness is knowing their strengths, weakness, and being strong and believing in yourself. And then seeking out mentors and sponsors is that whole surrounding oneself with the people.
I see. Now I want to show you something before we close. So I will show to the camera first.
That's not my...
Yeah, that's why. Do you know this kid?
Is that you?
No.
Who is that?
This is our speaker, Katie. Do you know her? She's also an investor from Poland.
Okay.
So we have 2 more kids. So I don't know if you will recognize her.
Oh, is that Rox?
Rox, yes. And I have here one more. You know her.
Yes, I do.
When you look at her, at your younger self, what do you feel? And what would you be grateful for her?
I feel a lot of love. The name Preethy means love.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
In Indian Sanskrit. So I've always based my life on doing things I love, sharing, love with people around me in different ways. Right. So that's what I feel when I see her, that she has been a bundle of joy.
Amazing. What would you thank her for?
Just being awesome.
That's amazing. The reason I want to show childhood pictures, because we are so busy, sometimes we forget how far we come. But when we get connected with our childhood, we get this moment, oh wow, that's where I was many years ago, that's where I am now.
In fact, I have a small thing, if you don't mind. So my mother always tells me, like every time she sees me, she only sees that.
Oh,
that picture.
So sweet. Very sweet. So as a structure of the podcast, now you can ask me one question. It could be any question, maybe not too personal, but it could be personal too, that I can say it publicly. So feel free to ask me any questions, just one.
Sure. So it's fantastic what you're doing here in Femigrants. What's inspiring you to do this podcast and all these talk shows?
Thank you. Great question. When I launched Femigrants several years ago, I interviewed hundreds of immigrant women. I published their success stories, and there were times when I was crying together with immigrants, because listening how they sacrificed, how difficult their life was, I feel related, connected, so emotional moment was there. At that moment, I realized that we immigrants overcome so many challenges and so much obstacles, but we never talk about it. And when I heard to their stories, I realized that, I am not an only immigrant woman that I struggled. There are hundreds of immigrant women like me, but I never heard their stories because it has never been told. And I was always dreaming to have a podcast where I will invite this immigrant woman to bring visibility to their stories, so entire world hears them and see how these immigrant women are strong. they are able to overcome all the challenges, leaving behind their loved ones, their beautiful lives, their careers, their journey there. They're coming to something very unknown to them. Meanwhile, trying to adapt to a new culture, to learn something new, they still do their best to strive in a new community, to learn and grow, but they never ever talk about it. So with this podcast, I aim to bring visibility to immigrant women, to femigrants like yourself, who grew up, it could be different life situations, but who were able to make it, to become successful leader, and at the same time, they are giving back. They are making social impact. So that is what motivates me to have this podcast. Number one, to bring visibility to these immigrant leader stories. Number two, to inspire other immigrant women hearing that, oh, wow, if she could do it, I can do it too. And number three, to educate immigrant women on investment, on money, on startup, to help them to be financially free.
That is so inspiring. Thank you for doing this, Aytechin.
Thank you.